Welcome to the Impacto AZ podcast, dedicated to centering Latinx voices on the important issues of the day. I'm your host, Jonathan Higuera, and in today's show, we will have two board members of the Arizona Latino Media Association. This group, which was established in 1997, has been offering support to local journalists and encouraging youth to join the media profession for decades now, and has done a marvelous job in helping highlight the issues of importance to Latino journalists and in turn Latino communities and supporting our democracy. Today I have two members of the ALMA board with me today. One is a founding member, and the other has been a guiding light in keeping the group together and shepherding in our signature event, our high school workshop. So welcome, Anita Luera, and welcome, El Macias. So good to have you with us today. Good to have you. I didn't go over all your professional achievements, but we're going to weave that into the discussion today, and I'll just let our audience know that these two folks are members of the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism's Hall of Fame. That school is located at Arizona State University. So with that, let's start out with some fresh news today. Fairly fresh. It's, in the last few weeks, we found out that the Walter Cronkite Award, a very prestigious journalism award, is going to Jorge Ramos and Maria Elena Salinas, two longtime anchors for Univision. They join really a who's who list of journalism in America. They join past recipients include Diane Sawyer, David Muir, Scott Pelley, Bryant Gumbel, Bob Costas. So this is one of the premier awards. Now I know ALMA didn't have an actual vote in who would be this year's winner, but we have been generally supportive of trying to get a Latino journalist named to that post. So perhaps, Al, you can start us off by talking a little bit about ALMA's role in this and just generally how the organization is feeling about this.
Thanks, Jonathan. Well, ALMA's role, certainly it was an effort to raise the awareness, if you will, of the importance and the legacy of Senor Ramos and Maria Elena Salinas. They, as you mentioned, have been in the media for many years, in Spanish language media. And so I had an opportunity to discuss possible recipients with Dean Betito Batts of the Cronkite School. And this goes back a couple of years. And so, it was a conversation, and it's a lengthy process. For example, usually about a month after the event, they start looking at the next year. So they were really kind of had to plan almost 2 years out when we started talking. I started talking, and others as well, to Dean Batts. And while we certainly had a role in, as I say, raising the awareness and suggesting some possible candidates, I do want to give credit to Dean Batts because he worked with the board. The Excellence in Journalism Award has a board from the Cronkite School that ultimately selects the recipients. And so he worked with them. And so this is, as far as I know, it's the first time they've had two recipients at the same time. So, interestingly enough, both Jorge and Maria Elena started off as anchors at Univision some, I think, 40 years ago. And here they are receiving this award together. So it's been a rewarding experience. Yeah.
And it goes without saying, but they both anchored the news for a Spanish language broadcast, right?
Yes. And I think that was part of our raising the awareness, if you will, of who they are. Because, so they may not have been known to all the English-speaking news audiences directly, although Maria Elena Salinas has worked with both CBS and ABC. And Ramos has also, appeared on Univision, on CNN, and so their names were known. And I think what we tried to do was just raise the awareness of how significant they were. The Spanish language audience, as we know, is a large audience. it's a diverse audience. The audience in Miami is different from the audience in LA or Phoenix. And so it was just an effort to, uh, if you will, like I say, raise the awareness, showcase the importance of these two to the Spanish language news media.
And I know, Anita, that you must feel good about this because you used to be a news director for Univision here in Phoenix, going back a ways, I know. But this must have made you feel good. And maybe did you feel a sense of validation there too, a little bit for Spanish language news?
Absolutely. For one, I felt it was long overdue. And just because of the representation in the markets, television markets, a population that really, the Latino population is huge in the United States. And this is a good, finally, recognition of that audience, um, because these people have been doing this for decades. And, when I was at Univision, I think the exposure to news that was beyond the United States, that was beyond Europe, beyond wherever we were fighting wars, but into South America, Central America, covering issues that were very um, needed for a lot of the community, the Latino community that has immigrated and moved to the U.S. and to find out what is going on in their country, how it's shaping, you know, issues throughout the world, and so they're very high profile people when you look at that perspective of what they
That's right.
brought,
That's right.
what they bring to that table.
Well
And
known throughout the Western Hemisphere for
right.
sure.
And really, it's not unusual to honor two people. I believe there was the PBS NewsHour, Gwen Ifill and Judy Woodruff. Gwen Ifill
Hmm.
had already passed away, but they were both honored together. And I think before that, McNeil Lehrer, the guys on that one, were also part of it. So
Although
it's
one
not
could argue that
unusual.
each one deserved their own individual award, but
Sure, but they were also tag team reporting anchoring teams. So
that's true.
to
That is true. It's
to have that
appropriate.
man and woman recognized has been really a good thing to see finally.
Very heartening. Very heartening. And
One
it's
thing,
funny.
Jonathan,
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to add too. I think this also acknowledges the importance of the Spanish language news media. Obviously, these two are receiving the award, but looking at recent elections, the importance of the Latino voter, and how all sides have tried to, Democrats, Libertarians, Republicans have tried to reach those Spanish language voters. They've done that through the Spanish language media. And so I think this award also, as I say, recognizes the significance of the Spanish language media in the overall media universe here in this country.
And it's interesting that you're mentioning the international aspect of the award and of these two recipients when ALMA's work has really been very local. But we've catered and I say we, disclaimer, I also am a co-founder of ALMA and former president at one point and a longtime board member. So that's why I say we, audience, in case you're wondering. But we've really our impact has been at a local level. But we've also catered to Spanish language and English language journalists. Both of those have been strong bases of our membership. Um, so let's talk a little bit about ALMA then. What is our goal? I think I know. What is our mission and how well are we fulfilling that mission? Maybe we'll start with you, Anita.
Well, our mission, oh gosh, is to reflect our community as journalists, covering the stories, finding the stories, not just whatever's making headlines, but digging deeper at what the other stories that are going on in our communities. That oftentimes, because there's no somebody who's lives in that community, works in that community. Has family in those communities, they're not being represented until you have somebody who's in a newsroom who can say, "Hey, what about this group? What about this perspective?" And I think that's really one of the key important things of our mission is to better reflect our communities in the media that we're responding to, and also to really bring up the next generation of journalists. And that has been the strongest part of our mission, not only through our high school outreach to high school students to get them interested in, but to support young students going into journalism through scholarships and funding. And that really has been the driving force of why we do what we do.
And and Al, since you are a founding member and now you're the current president, that really speaks to something, your loyalty, the longevity of the group. Do you think ALMA has changed a lot over the years, or is it pretty much remained true to its original goals, which were, supporting local journalists, attracting youth to journalism, and trying to find ways to have better representation in news coverage for our Latino communities? Do you think it's changed, speaking from that long-term
Well,
experience?
I think it's evolved. I think we still hold true to our core mission. I have pulled it up actually in front of me, and part of it that says, it's our initiatives that deepen the scope, coverage, and understanding of the Latino community. And I think, we've tried to do that. And what we've done, as I mentioned, the evolution process that we're going through, and I think if any organization is going to be relevant, you have to evolve. You can't just keep doing the same things you've been doing. And with us, almost 30 years now. And part of what I say the evolution is certainly our high school workshop, where we once a year we bring in about 100 high school students from around the state to the Cronkite School and give them a one-day crash course on journalism. That's something that we've certainly expanded on from our very small beginnings. From 27 years ago, we had a handful of students. Now we're doing about 100 students. And we're certainly offering larger scholarships to the college students. And even the prizes that we offer at the high school workshop have increased. And part of that has been because we've been very fortunate to get some very generous donors and backers to have supplied us with the financial resources to do that. The other thing that we've done and we're doing more of, and that's offering some opportunities to our professional members for training and growth. And so we're working with other news organizations such as FPJ, that we've hosted a number of events here in the Phoenix area. And so we continue to try and do that. So I think we are true to our original statement, our mission, I should say. But as I say, we have also tried to increase our activities, our connectivity, if you will. We do have there's obviously, from when we started out 27 years ago, there are many more Latino journalists. There are many more opportunities. It's not just television and print. Actually, sadly, there's fewer print.
There's a diffusion of media where you can get your news from now.
Yeah.
And also, I wanted to mention, I'm going to stop you there for a quick second and remind our audience that this organization is all volunteer. It's a nonprofit, so we never had paid staffers to carry out this. But at one point, we did have the support of other organizations like the Arizona State University's journalism program. But Anita, this is where I'd like to ask you a little bit, because our viewers may not know that you really were the straw that stirred the drink for keeping this thing going for as long as it's been going. I remember that there were lean years and there were tough years, and you were always there supporting it, making sure we all did our jobs to get that high school journalism workshop done. Why was it so important to you? I mean, in the many things you had going on in your life, your professional life and otherwise, you always made it a point to make sure that high school journalism workshop came off and did what it's doing now.
I think I was very fortunate to be in a position, not only having worked in the journalism industry and broadcast industry in the Valley, but also to evolve into the education role. And so with the high school workshop was always there. And when the opportunity to join ASU Cronkite School of Journalism came up as a high school director of high school programs. And it was nothing. It was not elevating my career in any sense that it was going to put me at a upper echelon and status and pay, but it was something that really fed into my passion of bringing along that next generation. As a former news director, finding young journalists to come into Spanish media was really quite a challenge, and to be able to see some of these students come in, give them that first opportunity in the door, and then but then unfortunately 6 months later somebody's raiding and taking my talent away, but still recognizing that there's really a need to get kids young. And so Alma already had that going for them. And so at the university level, I was able to really push and support to get to elevate the program, to bring in more opportunities for more schools. They gave me a chance to get out into the high schools, to really talk one-on-one with students and get them energized about it. And that is what really help me to do a better job of what I was doing at my job, but also feeding into my passion. So that was almost, it was easy, it was fun, and it still is today, because because I've retired from that position, and it wasn't picked up at ASU Cronkite School. Well, there have been attempts, but it's really fallen off as far as their direct outreach to high school students. And so my challenge that I brought back to the board this summer, after going to NHJ and listening about other high school programs around the country, was to come in and challenge our board to get out there into the schools and let's recruit. Let's do direct. We have 10 members. We got, let's get 20 schools that we've been into before we get to our workshop, so we can build up our outreach to high schools around Arizona.
And I will say, you were doing this even before you were at ASU,
Yes, yes.
and you kept it going, and you and the board kept it going for long before that affiliation. So there was a
Thank you. I
commitment
mean,
there before you moved into that position.
it was, I think it was successful. It was a blast for everybody to come together every year to put this together, but it was very shoestring. And so to be able to give it a little bit more structure, to give it a little more emphasis, and to really tie into the university and the power of having that journalism school in our backyard, to be able to bring students to the university campus, to give them that experience of what it's like to be a journalist, to have it in both English and Spanish. Those have just been, part of the what is good about this workshop, but we're able to keep it going. And it's been a blast to do that.
And from a personal standpoint, I got to say the workshops are great, but as a working journalist, I just appreciated that Alma was there. I could network with other colleagues. We could commiserate if we needed to commiserate. We could just enjoy each other's company, feel we were in a safe space, and talk about issues that were affecting us at work or otherwise. And Alma still does that, right? It still encourages that networking among its members.
Right. And Al, I don't, I know you have a lot to say, but I just reflecting on this in the last several couple days, um, working in the newsroom. I came out, Al, I think you were 2 years ahead of me. You were already in a newsroom. I knew you personally before, because you were my brother's roommate, and you're in broadcast, and I was like, I'm not sure this is a thing for me, but I got into it. I was at a different station. I had one Latino journalist, Jesus Hernandez, and he was a little instigator. And he really made me aware of issues or lack of representation that was going on that he saw. And so he was a good impetus to have in-house, knowing that you were at another station, Frank Camacho was at another station, who else? Carlos Jurado, who I
Carlos.
interned with. We had a little group, but again, think of where I was. I was a female, and there were no Latinas in that newsroom, other than the secretarial, type
Hmm.
position. And actually, I did start kind of like at that, because it was to answer phones. But I was quickly given an opportunity to learn how to produce, use what I learned in school. And that's where my journalism education really took off. But to
Right.
not have that female representation, that was missing. But what really helped me was that Hispanic Women's Corporation had already started. And this was a sisterhood of some of the women I had met in college, my older sisters, that we would get together and plan this conference for working women and lower level working women to give us an opportunity. And in those leadership planning positions, that really gave me a good strength and background that I wouldn't have gotten anywhere else. And I had to go outside of my station, outside of my company to find that. And so then when I joined ALMA, that was that extra push that really helped. But
Impetus.
if it
Well,
hadn't been the HWC, I think I never would have taken that
oh, wow.
news director job.
Well, that's news. I didn't know that that was in your background. But what you're saying speaks to the fact that both you and Al, are pioneers for Latinos in the news media in Phoenix. Uh, uh, Al, what year did you
That
come
means
out of
we're old,
college?
you guys.
I'm just thinking about how newsrooms were and what they must have been like back then. Al, what year did you come out of college and start working in a newsroom?
Well, it was in the last millennium, so it's been a while. Yeah, I started working in '75, and
Okay, the
kind of following
70s.
up on Neetha's point, it was a different. Heck, it was 50 years ago, and there were each television station at the time had one on-air Latino reporter. I don't know that it was a formal quota, but if you looked around, yeah, and it was. I was at 3, Jesus was at 10, Carlos was at 5, John Alba was at 12, and so that
Right.
was it.
Mhm.
There's just a handful of us. Frank Camacho, I think, was at KTAR at that time. I don't think he was at 3 yet. But yeah, so there was that, and it's evolved. Certainly, and also at the print side, what was then the Phoenix Gazette and now the Arizona Republic, they had a very small number of Latina journalists. That has changed significantly. You can look across any television station, listen to the radios, if anybody listens to the radios regularly, and certainly you look at the bylines at the Arizona at AZ Central, and there's a whole lot more Latino names. So that has changed. Part of it is just society has changed. I think, and I'm not going to lay claim to it, but I'm going to say that I would hope that our efforts over the years have had some small role, at least locally. And I can point to two of our board members, Gabriel Gamino and Griselda Zatino, who both came through our high school workshops, then graduated to ASU, and graduated from the Cronkite School, have both had broadcast careers. Gabe is now the communications director for the Alhambra district, and Griselda is the communications director for the Helios Foundation. Those are two, people that we highlight all the time, but there are a number of other uh, people who are now engaged professionally across the country who came through the high school workshop or were affiliated or received a scholarship from ALMA when they were at ASU. And so I think we've had, like I say, I'd like to think just a little tiny bit of impact as the years went by, have gone by, with making sure that we made ourselves available and just basically raised awareness. I think, kind of like Anita was saying, when she was coming out of high school, she probably wasn't aware of the opportunities. And through our high school workshop, we've done that. Yesterday, I happened to be at Mesa High School doing my pitch. Spoke to about 20 some students. Some of them were actually paying attention, which is a challenge in a high school class, as a teacher told me. But yeah, I could see that there were several students in there that were interested when I mentioned the cash prizes they get for the writing and the possible scholarships when they get to college. It seemed to get their attention. And so I
Okay.
think through our efforts over the years, we have opened the eyes and hopefully opened a few doors for people as they've gone through their educational process and hopefully onto their professional work.
Okay. What I kind
I'm
of
gonna
hear.
brag a little bit
Okay.
because I think Griselda and Gabriel, I gave them quite a bit of little pushing. Come on,
Mm-hmm.
you apply for
Mm-hmm.
this, do this. I met them both in high school and was able, because of that job at Cronkite, able to kind of guide them and shepherd them along through that path, and just reminding them when they started their job, I said, we're going to come looking for you in a couple of years, and
Hmm.
you need to get your experience, but talent, when you see talent and trying to foster it. And I'm just so glad and proud that they are really stepping up, and really they are going to they are moving this board forward from Al and I, and soon I'm ready to
And it does
hand it
take
over.
that nudge, right? Sometimes it does take that nudge, no matter how talented you are and you have potential written all over you. Sometimes it takes someone pushing you a little bit to make
Yeah,
that
and
plunge,
reminding them,
right?
don't you got to give back. You got to give
Yeah.
back, and that's what they're
It,
doing.
Now,
I'll follow. Let me follow up just real briefly with another little anecdote. Is there was a young lady who graduated from Cronkite who happened to be the daughter of a family friend, and she was hesitant to sign up for Noticias, which is the Spanish language student broadcast at Cronkite. And I knew she was completely fluent in Spanish and English. I had to give her a nudge, a couple of nudges. And fortunately, she accepted the encouragement, and she graduated, and she's working for the Telemundo NBC station in Palm Springs right out of school. And so I think that's part of what, even though there may not be some formal, well, there has been formal training opportunities. Lots of times it's our role as informal mentors, encouragers, if that's a word, to make sure students are willing to step out there and maybe work without a net a little bit. And it is a challenge. You know, it's a challenge for all of us, but I think especially when they're young and coming out of school or in school, it's like, well, I'm not sure I want to do that. Well, take a chance. And that's what we
now,
tried to do.
now let's nudge this forward a little bit to 2025, knowing that we've dealt with students going way back, our own experiences, other students, and now we're in 2025. We seem to have more representation. There's certainly more media outlets out there where people can get their news from. Have the issues changed?
I think the issues are still there. It's the atmosphere that's dramatically changed in the last year. And that is a huge challenge that we have. Just when things that gave us opportunities 50 years ago are no longer there. The Pell Grants are going to be yanked. Those kind of things that allowed me to go to college. Those scholarships that were targeting or giving me an opportunity to apply for. You take out a word and the application process drops. We just saw that in another organization I'm involved in, that they had to change the requirements because it was of the current atmosphere, and that
The current
changed just
atmosphere, meaning the
doing
negativity
away with
towards
diversity, equity,
DEI,
and
right?
inclusion.
Okay,
Okay, that
yeah.
the current national administration is putting forth, and all that attack that's going on journalism today. So issues change, but that really brings us back to an awareness that we still have a lot of work to do.
So yeah, there's a diffusion of media,
Hmm.
so there's opportunity there, but doesn't always mean you're going to be a successful journalist and that you're going to carry the same ethics and storytelling standards. What do you think about
Well,
that, Al?
Well, one of the actually, it's thank you for the segue, because one of the things I spoke to the students at Mesa High yesterday was that even though the technology has changed and you can do everything, you're not getting the news off of a newspaper, it's coming off of your phone. But whether you're doing a podcast or a digital story, you still have to be able, I'd like to think, write, write intelligently, be creative, be informative, and your writing has to be engaging.
And the importance of journalism definitely has changed. When you bring up podcasts, well, that's the world according to me. And the subjects I want to cover, and are they fact checked as aggressively as a trained journalist will do? That's the challenge of today, and that's really why this is so important, that we continue to do what we do, even though we're retired. But at the same time, it's like, when you look back at the evolving. I mean, just take this is the last printed edition of the Arizona Republic in Phoenix, in Arizona. It's now being printed regionally in
Las
Nevada.
Vegas.
Yeah.
But this is how I started. My interest in journalism started with the newspaper. My brothers, they delivered it every morning in our neighborhoods and always came home with one. And when couldn't get the sports page and find them from my brothers, then I had to read the news. And so my interest in the world was brought about by this. And for where you grew up and you lived among, 10 brothers and sisters, it was always a battle to find your place in the family, but also finding your place in the world. And this took my world another place.
That is something to be concerned about. Are our readers, are the youth of today, are they able to really discern credible news from not credible news? That seems to be a major danger to democracy these days.
No question that I think, and that's I've seen it in the classrooms at ASU when I teach at the Cronkite School, explaining how to differentiate between opinion and what it would be traditionally considered news. And that's not a gray line; it's a very blurred line for many young people. I've had discussions with young people in my own family, uh, where they've quoted something, and we've gone back and forth to discuss, is that really news? And then I source it, and that doesn't always lead to a pleasant conversation sometimes when you disagree. But that's what we've done. That's what we've always done. You check your information, you confirm it. Is it accurate? Is it true? And so as Anita says, we need to keep doing that.
Okay. Well, there's so many topics we could take on here, and I'd like to get into more on ALMA and the things we've done, but I think we're going to have to come back and have you guys on again. So with that, nice talking to you and have a great day.
You too. Thank you.